we're back and we're in peace reboot territory where we are circling back and trying to draw some connections to our main theme of peacemaking, peace education, because we've talked about a lot of subjects. Linda, do you have an idea of what seems to have come out clearly and maybe what hasn't come out as clearly, so that there's a last chance to address some of those things, in your opinion?
I'm just trying to think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it? Do you have any favourite talks, for example?
Of course I do.
Or least favourite talks?
I enjoy healing, and I really enjoy the subject of justice, because there's so much injustice in this world, and it's something that I challenge as well in my own life. But
and you're really interested in healing too.
And healing as well, yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
We all are. It's so important.
What about that astronomical stuff, that celestial stuff? Were you able to follow most of that?
Yes, I'm learning more and more as we go along.
Do you think it's relevant?
Of course it is. I think we're very much connected with what happens in the cosmos. And luckily I've got Mum and yourself to bounce ideas off and to learn more about the subject.
Right. And what about world order? That's going back a few months, of course.
World order?
Yes.
Yes, well, we don't have much world order, do we, at the moment?
Because of all the wars.
That's right.
What does
too good.
What does world order mean to you?
It's about being organised. It's about all the subjects that we've covered, especially justice. And
would you say that it would mean an orderly world?
An orderly world, exactly.
Basically,
that's it in a nutshell.
That would mean a
sense.
lawful world.
Yeah, that makes sense. A world that makes sense to people.
Right.
Yeah.
But if there is anarchy and enunciations of law and nobody listening to the law, there's not much of a world order, is there?
No, there isn't.
It's not really making sense.
When you say something is bad in one sense and then it's okay in another,
it confuses people.
It's very confusing.
Yeah, it's really an insult to our intelligence and our humanity.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of this disintegration going on, because not only do we have the example that I mentioned last time, international law says stop. Yeah, but our law, the law of our people based on our own religious interpretation, says go, now's the time to advance. Then where is your coherence in law? How can there be world order with so many contradictory elements of law in the world? And how can we promote peace unless we are really serious about sorting out the contradictory bases of different systems of law, different pillars of law?
I can only talk from
why we did
my
Jewish
religion,
periods.
which I'm a Christian, and it preaches peace and compassion and all the good things from the heart.
That's what we like to think our religion teaches us.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what the other religions teach, but...
Well, most religions should teach those basic values.
I look out and I see just violence and horror, and I just don't quite get it.
You see people apparently not living by religious principles.
No.
And how does that make you feel?
Very confused.
Does it make you lose trust in religion itself?
Not in the religion itself, because
No.
the religion itself is pure, but it's just the way in which people interpret it is wrong.
So you have an
sometimes.
idea of a pure religion. So we like to hold that yeah, there's got to be pure, true religion, like straight from God, and the corruptions happen on the way down. Human beings.
We're humans.
Yeah,
So
weaponize religious ideas. They pervert religion. They try to use religion for political ends.
That's right.
We did talk about that too, didn't we? And this is one of the biggest obstacles to peacemaking.
It is, unfortunately.
Yeah. What else?
That's basically the main subject at the moment that I'm dealing with, is the understanding of if everything that we do down here is based on a religious belief, why do we have so much violence and horror? And it shouldn't be that way inclined.
Well,
just because religion to me
yeah,
preaches the opposite.
right. This is a big
So
deal.
it's hypocritical in a sense.
Religion is meant to promote peace, but so often we see violence.
Also compassion and
Everything that goes along
love
with peace.
and
Yes.
care and whatnot.
Yes. Peace is like a rainbow, like breaking white light into 7 colours, and it's rich with compassion, mercy, justice. No peace without justice.
That's right.
No peace without forgiveness
That's right.
and reconciliation. And no peace without obedience to the moral law. Now, some people think because they see religious people involved in violence and religious people persecuting other religious people or people who seemingly don't have a religion, but nobody really doesn't have a religion because everybody believes in some system of thought or ideology.
Even if you're an atheist.
Yeah. So you can either conclude that religion is the source of all violence, or religion is inherently violent, and that's not as...
I think it's our interpretation. We turned it into something violent.
Well, I hope so. I hope in its essence it is peacemaking. I believe it is. I trust that it is. But
it is peacemaking, but it's the way we've translated it.
I can see why people think that religion per se breeds violence, because the ideals that people hold most passionately are their religious ideals, and they are prepared to die for them. So if they're prepared to die for them, in that process, they're probably fighting for their lives, so they're prepared to kill for them as well.
Yeah.
Gandhi said...
It defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you're actually sinning.
Gandhi said that there were causes for which he was prepared to die, but no cause for which he was prepared to kill.
Yeah. I can understand that.
And so the people that die giving witness to the hope of a higher ideal, something godly, they're martyrs, or akin to martyrs. That word basically means a witness. So it is better to be a martyr, hard as it is, than to have blood-soaked hands, than
Of course.
to break the moral law, than to flout the principles of true religion.
I believe that there is a price to pay for that. Maybe not here, in the afterlife there is.
And we've talked about that too.
Yeah.
Judgment at the end of one's life. And an ultimate reckoning. Now, another complicating factor is that because religion is about divine and transcendental things a lot of the time, Well, there's a practical side of it, which has a lot of laws and bylaws and regulations and so on. But there's also this transcendental side of it. And as it's written in the scripture, there's a peace that passes understanding. Religion teaches about this peace. So there's peace and there's peace. The peace that passes understanding is somewhat transcendental. Why say somewhat? Because it's sort of got roots in our life. It's not totally off the planet. If it were, like, what would it profit us even to be talking about it? But that peace, as it were, is not of this world. This is a point I want to make. In a way, it's not of this world. It transcends the world. It surmounts, it triumphs over the world. This transcendental peace which passes understanding and is everything we hope for it to be, replete with compassion and mercy and justice and reconciliation and forgiveness. Right. Whereas, as long as we are on earth, there's a lot of shit that happens here on earth.
Oh, tell me about it.
There is a conflict. Yeah. There's always been conflict. Let's get our heads around that for a minute. In Ecclesiastes, it says there is a time for war and a time for peace. Well, does there always have to be a time for war? Well, it seems like this is human life on this planet. Sometimes there's war and sometimes there's peace, and then that's succeeded by war and that's succeeded by a period of peace. Maybe we should call it small p peace. And the transcendent peace that passes understanding, maybe we should call big P peace. It's more idealized. It does seem to be our experience. So, if the Messiah is the Prince of Peace, it's kind of unrealistic down here on earth to say, oh, look, people are still fighting. That Prince of Peace couldn't have been the Prince of Peace, couldn't have been the Messiah, because otherwise all guns would be silenced. The lion would lay down with the lamb. Everything would be halcyon. Has peace come into the world? Has real peace anchored itself on this planet?
Not yet.
Think carefully before you answer. Because if this peace that passes understanding is in a way not of this world or beyond this world, I won't say not of this world because it has to have roots here, otherwise it's not relevant to us. If it's largely beyond this world, because it comes from beyond this world into our world, it breaks through, right? And we can have glimpses of it, and we try to orient our lives to it. Then that could be here operating in the world, and yet all the cacophony of conflict continues to go on down through the centuries. Such and such a nation fighting such and such a nation, such and such a group fighting such and such a group. And both can be true. There can be hostilities and truces, and that lower level of peace,
that you find
which is just managing shit, managing human problems.
Yeah, individual level.
Yeah. Because look at our diplomats and our secretaries of state and the people who are entrusted to make peace. They're looking for a clever negotiation and deal which can bring about the ceasefire, really. They don't know what's going to happen in the future, but they want to kind of manage the problem. And it's a bit like the way our allopathic medical system manages diseases. Its genius seems to be for damage control.
Yes, that's what it's for, damage control.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Down on Earth here, we're engaged in damage control, whether we're trying to draw a line under the Israel-Gaza or the Israel-Lebanon conflict or the Ukraine-Russia conflict and stop it. It's like, look at the damage, look at the destruction. Let's try and control it and stop it. And everybody's saying, stop, stop, stop. So human peacemaking that is just purely human and not inspired by
Well, it's
divine.
ego-based too. Like, let my legacy be a peace treaty.
Well, yes, a lot of it's ego-based. You remember when Ronald Reagan got into power and the American hostages in Iran were held under Jimmy Carter, and there was some deal done through the CIA so that just as Reagan got either elected president or inaugurated as president, the hostages were released. And it's like,
happening for a long time.
you know, we did it, you know, and surely world leaders want to be the one that signed the agreement. I'm sure Donald Trump would like to be the one who can end Ukraine-Russia conflict in a day.
Yeah, I want to go down in history as doing so.
They want to go down in history. But certainly props to anybody who can end a conflict, like a good medico or a surgeon who can implement damage control in an effective way. But we're not just settling for that in this program here of peacemaking and peace education. We're trying to bring the divine love and justice and the peace that passes understanding that comes from another. It doesn't arise from here, it comes from another place, and it pierces through into our reality supernaturally and gives us a glimpse of something that is beyond all the travail, beyond all the conflict, all the blood, all the fear, and beyond all the tears and suffering. It wipes every tear from every eye. That kind of peace. And it's unrealistic to say, well, we need to, if we don't have that, we can't force that, then we don't know the way to get there. Because both situations coexist, don't they?
They do.
And it can be very confusing at times.
Absolutely.
Yeah? So we have to do our best at damage control, the practical work of damage control, and we can only do that in our own ways and according to our stations in life and our roles. But by the same token, we must seek that peace that passes understanding, in which the original order of creation, forget your world order, there's an order beyond world order. It's cosmos. Cosmos means order, this ancient Greek word. It's the opposite of chaos. So this original order where everything is pristine and knows its place and exists in harmony with every other part of creation according to the Creator's designs. And if we can live in that world as well as this world doesn't have to get us down and as depressed and dispirited as it does. And we can do our best to alleviate suffering on this world. And at the same time, find our eternal homeland in that sunlit place where there's neither need for sun nor moon nor day nor night. Eternal peace. I know I'm waxing a bit lyrical, but our normal categories can't really capture it. And so it's not going to be a simplistic formula for peace. Sorry to say, if there was, we could have just given you the formula in the first episode, and then you could have just taken away and applied it. But so even pacifists, well, they know that killing other human beings is not the way to go.
No, it's not.
War is not the way to go. So they renounce arms, they renounce wars. People like the Anabaptists and the Amish in the United States. They originally came from Europe, of course, and part of the Radical Reformation. And they thought these wars, they are being waged by the head honchos, you know, rulers, princes, kings, dukes, potentates. And our religious scruples are different from theirs. Ours are more kind of primitive and back to what they should be. So maybe we should renounce all war as well, be pacifist.
That would be good.
Be good if the whole world renounced.
Exactly. It has to be that way for it to work.
Is it that simple? Or is there something about life here on Earth which will make war and truce and...
Oh, it's going to be very...
There's always been conflict, so why hasn't pacifism worked?
Human beings are just... That's the way we're built, in a sense.
Yes.
We have personal conflicts.
It's not that simple, is it?
No, it's
because,
not that easy.
Especially when you look at every legal system and every religion seems to enshrine the right to self-defense of individuals and of nations. So whenever there's that right, there's a presumption that there will be some attack somewhere along the line.
That's right.
And so the pacifist might not do the fighting, but other people might be fighting on their behalf. But Gandhi was a pacifist, and King was, and Jesus was, and yet big violence happened around them. And they didn't shed the blood, but their own blood was shed. It's almost like, oh, wouldn't it be wonderful for that to have happened and not for their blood to have been shed? But that violence seems to be down here on this planet, having its way all the time. We have to be pretty realistic about it. Just like to a certain degree, we're all immersed in it. And in every global conflict, we can get polarized in our own workplaces and our own families, indeed, in our own families, on the opposite side of the world to the conflict. Some of the conflicts of late have been hugely polarizing, and they've split groups of people. They've torn apart households, set father against child, child against mother. You see what I'm saying? Because we're glued to our screens in this global village world with telecommunications, and we end up being polarized. You can take one side or the other, like barracking for a football team. And what happens then? What happens when your in-law visits and they've taken the other side? They're going for the team in the blue jersey and you're going for the team in the red jersey. What happens then? There's conflict locally as well as globally. And so much in our world is polarizing.
It sure is.
Previous US presidential elections, polarized families. Families broke up because of disputes over Trump versus Clinton. Now there'll be Trump. There was Trump versus Biden. Now there'll be Trump versus Harris.
Wow.
The pandemic was polarizing. people on either side of this.
The pandemic was terrible.
But you see how it can sow the seeds of division between people.
Yeah, by separating them, getting them to stay in their houses.
And you can have people in the one household that have different approaches to
That's
it.
right.
Different
That can
responses to
start
this.
conflict.
Yeah. And
I'm a pro-vaxxer, I'm a non-vaxxer, and
the
bang,
war...
we've got a fight happening.
Exactly. You don't need to look out there for the fight. It's happening right under your nose.
That's right.
The war in Ukraine, extremely polarizing.
Oh, yeah.
It's very hard for people not to take a side. And the moment you take a side, you're kind of coming down into this earth zone where there's a time for war and a time for peace. And because King Solomon was just observing this cavalcade of one thing following another, sunrise, sunset, day and night, war and peace, a time for sowing and a time for reaping, a time for building up and a time for tearing down. There is
crazy, isn't
nothing new under the sun, he said.
We build things to destroy them. It's crazy.
Yes, and he's saying there's a time for tearing down and a time for building up. And really, things haven't changed much since his time.
No, they haven't.
Have things substantially changed over the millennia?
No, this has been going on for thousands of years.
That's right. So as
completely.
peacemakers, let's not beat up on ourselves. Let's not have unrealistic expectations. Let's not be disheartened. There's still work to be done, but let's get things into perspective. For thousands of years, people have been born and people have died. People have been given in marriage. People have been, people have gone to war and people have made peace. Lowercase p, peace. People have put up monuments, buildings, statues to their rulers, and then other people have torn them down. And then others have put them up, and then others have torn them down.
It's madness.
It doesn't take long to tear down a statue.
No. Looks quite simple, actually.
Yeah. It didn't take the US long to tear down Saddam Hussein's statue from Baghdad in 2003. But did it achieve its purpose?
No, that's a mess. The whole thing ended up very messy, unfortunately.
We often
But
just
that's
see...
the thing about war. No one really wins, unfortunately. It's just one big hoo-ha and a mess left behind to clean up.
Yeah. And a time for building these cities and rebuilding them, and a time
and some
when
people
they
make money and some people don't.
Yes. It's been happening forever and ever, from time immemorial. And that's why maybe the Mashiach, Prince of Peace, has come, has shone that light, has shown us what that transcendental peace is about. And you can't just say, but look, the guns aren't silent. The wars haven't stopped. Because that's the way of the world. And that kingdom of peace is not of this world. So think on that for a bit and think, we must establish ourselves in that kingdom where the peace is. And then work.
I just hope we find it.
That's the task.
In my lifetime.
If you don't know where it is, if you haven't found it, find it. And then in the workaday world, do what you can in damage control and clean up and service to your fellow man.
And what a clean up it is.
And what a clean up it is. I think we'll leave it at that, Belinda.